And first, our banks are urging caution over calls for a drastic reduction in interest rates. This follows renewed pressure from businesses for commercial banks to respond more aggressively to the recent cut in the policy rate. Chief Executive of the Ghana Association of Banks, John Ewa, tells Joy Business that such moves could trigger shocks to the economy and put added pressure on the city.
As market participants, we remain vigilant on movements on all market fundamentals. But as I always caution, if we depress the yield on CD assets too aggressively, investments in CD assets will become unattractive. That will mean that yield-chasing investors will look for alternatives, which could exert some pressure on the local currency that we are trying very hard to protect. That is, if they assess that foreign currency assets would yield better returns or preserve their value in the best possible way. Affordable loans is good for the economy and in addition, potentially contribute towards reduction in impairment pressures. But we should just be watchful on the extent of rate depression that we seek.
Well, joining me on Zoom, economist at the University of Ghana Business School, Dr. Jaber Mohammed. Good afternoon to you. So, why are banks urging caution even after the central bank has cut the policy rate? And what risk are they seeing that businesses may be overlooking?
Good afternoon to you and good afternoon to all your listeners. Banks are naturally we want to rent loan at a higher rate, basically because they think that gives them a good margin. But then consumers are also interested in a loan reduction so that they can have access to more loans and do a lot of investment within the economic space. But that notwithstanding, you will notice that when interest rates are cut aggressively, the borrower tends to benefit more as compared to the lender. The lender is interested in higher interest yield. And if you listen to the Association of Bankers president, you will notice that his point of argument is more on the investor point of view. He is not looking at the borrower point of view. The borrower interest is to learn and invest within the economic space. One key thing you have to note is that when interest rates are low, it drives a lot of investment within the system, and that can help to increase productivity in the long run. And when productivity is increased, it also has its own tendency of slowing down inflation. However, if loans are lended at a cheaper rate and the borrowers take the funds and they don't use the funds into productive investment, it tends to bring more inflation because more money will be chasing fewer goods, and that will have a serious impact on inflationary tendencies. And if you notice what he said, you also touch that aspect of the argument.
When interest rates are reduced aggressively, how that impacts the city immediately and in the longer term?
Well, the long term, it will have an impact on the long term because aggressive reduction in interest rates will have a serious impact on long-term outcome because one, the point is that you could have a lot of the assets being a still asset, which means that people are not willing, especially housing projects. In terms of housing businesses may be affected because it's going to lead to a hike in prices. If you look at the U.S., what happened in the U.S., you will notice that the housing bubble was as a result of lower interest rates, and people will have to find their investment into real estate. And when they invest more into real estate, prices are going to drive real estate high, especially as a result of aggressive interest rates. And it can also bring about risk in terms of the businesses. Businesses will be looking for alternative investments, and the alternative investment must give them a good yield. And that good yield will lead to a higher risk in those avenues. And also banks may decide to reallocate their resources, as he said earlier on. they may not want to lend to borrowers. They want to look out elsewhere for lending because they are in business to make funds. And inflation may also increase in the long run. These are some of the fundamental issues that you will see when you have interest rates aggressively reduced.
Yeah, so do I get the sense that you largely agree with the remarks from the Ghana Association of Banks? And what do you tell our audience who are asking, why don't policy rates translate quickly into lower lending rates for businesses and households?
Now, if you look at the businesses and households, like I said earlier on, you will notice that, the determination of the final interest rate by banks is not only driven by policy rates, it's driven by several other factors. If you look at the Ghana referencing rate, the Ghana referencing rate has three components. It has the policy rate, it has the interbank rate, and it has the treasury bill rate. And these are three key components that constitute the Ghana referencing rate. Then apart from that, the banks also look at their own premium that they have to place on the loan, based on the fact that some of the loans are actually some of the loans, you can default in the loan. So as a result of that, risk premium on high defaulting loans are normally very high. And also, the banks will charge certain fees. And they also look at compensating balances. Compensating balances are funds that are normally kept by the borrower to tell the lender that I'm capable of paying. So all of these constitute to tell us how much interest the borrower is supposed to pay. So borrowers are not, the lending rate is not driven only by policy rate, it's driven by several factors. So that is what lenders have to know, that your industry that you are lending, if default rates are high in that industry, the probability that the rate you are going to be paying is very high as compared to industries that have a lower default rate. And also, if you have a compensating balance, or if your bank requires a compensating balance, that may also be factored into the rate you are going to pay. And also the fees and other things that you are supposed to pay, like insurance and all of that, they all constitute to the lending that you pay aside the policy rate and the other factors I spoke about. That is part of the Ghana referencing rate.
And from a practical standpoint, what should businesses and borrowers realistically expect in the coming months? Cheaper credit or continued tight conditions?
Well, we've just started the year, and you'll notice that the year is going on very well. The exchange rate is doing pretty well. Inflation is also doing pretty well. So treasury bill rates are coming down. So if the Ghana referencing rate reduces, and the banks also believe that the macroeconomic conditions are favorable, then they will begin to revise their rates based on the factors that I've already discussed. So I believe that in the coming days, we should see more favorable terms of engagement, especially in terms of investment opportunities, etc. And that can have a serious impact on the overall economy and individuals and businesses as a whole.
Yeah, and we look ahead to the next, in 10 days' time, when the central bank would meet for their monetary policy committee meeting, would probably figure out what they decide in those coming days. But do you want to sort of hazard a guess what decisions they're going to be taking based on what we've seen as the outcome for our economy in the last few days?
Well, in the last few, the policy rate was cut. And if you look at it, the bank is going to be looking at the money in circulation. What is the high-powered money in circulation? Are they willing to increase the quantum of money in circulation? If they want to do so, are they willing to push for more investment? If they want to do so, then they will further cut the interest rate down. And that will allow consumers to borrow at a relatively lower rate. But if they want to tighten the monetary policy stance, they want to keep, especially now that inflation is down, you will notice that the central bank will not want to keep a tighter monetary policy stance. The central bank will want to keep a losing monetary stance, which means that the policy rate is going to further come down so that at least people can borrow at a lower interest rate.
Thank you so much for your time, Dr. Jaber Mohammed, economist with the University of Ghana Business School. Great to speak with you. Now, government has assured that port users and importers will not be made to pay any extra cost from the deployment of the artificial intelligence system at the country's port. Now, the system is aimed at ensuring efficiency and accuracy in duty payments. Speaking to the business community at the stakeholders' engagement in Accra, Deputy Minister of Finance Thomas Nyakwampim assured that the system will promote fairness. Here's more. Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority says the installation of an artificial intelligence system at the ports is aimed at creating a more efficient and transparent environment for users. However, some businesses have raised concerns about the new system, particularly as the Integrated Customs Management System, ICOMS, is already operational and providing similar services. Stakeholders have questioned the affordability of the AI system and its potential impact on the operations. At a stakeholder engagement in Accra, the Deputy Minister for Finance, Thomas Ampem-Nyako, assured importers and exporters that they will not be required to pay additional fees for the service.
This implementation is not coming at any cost to you. We never said that we are not paying the service provider. So let's get the two correctly. We never said that the service provider will not be paid. What we said is that we are not charging you any extra fee for the service. For the burden for the payment of the service provider will not be on you. That is why I referred to my brother and said I support his statement that you won't pay a kobo, you won't pay a dime, you won't pay a naira, you won't pay whatever examples he used. So that is the distinction.
Meanwhile, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Association, Clement Boateng, in an interview with Joy Business, acknowledged the need for automation at the ports, but stressed the importance of broader engagement with traders by the GRA.
Minister, as well as the Commissioner General, has assured us that this is the first day of stakeholder engagement. We will continue the stakeholder engagement, and even after the implementation, they will solicit the feedbacks that will come, and if there is the need to maybe improve upon it, they will do that. So they have pleaded with us to let the implementation start whilst there's still the stakeholder engagement will also go on.
The AI-powered automation system is expected to complement existing port systems, improve efficiency and boost revenue collection once fully operational. Meanwhile, the Ghana Revenue Authority has justified its decision to deploy artificial intelligence at the country's ports. According to the authority, the new system is expected to enhance efficiency and promote fairness in duty payments. Here's the Commissioner General, Anthony Sapon.
We all do know that when it comes to revenue leakages, there are issues. When it comes to modeling, there are issues. When it comes to classification, there are issues. When it comes to evaluation, there are issues. As a human institution, when we have issues, one of the things that comes to mind is change. That should help us improve our current situation. And this is what is actually calling for introduction of an AI technology. And I stress the word to complement our existing infrastructure and processes. All throughout the world, AI is becoming the next set of revolution. And Ghana cannot be left behind, and more so, GRA and all of us in the port ecosystem cannot be left behind. And therefore, we find it worthy to introduce AI technology that will ensure that it creates the efficiencies that we all need. Today, there are tons of data that sits in ICOMS from a single window that officers have to go through before they arrive at the decision. Today, when all declarations are available for custom officers to go through, and even assuming that everything is perfect, it takes us 2 hours to arrive at the decision for the trader to know that this is the amount of duty that I have to pay. And I believe this is a call of a challenge for us to improve. The introduction of AI, this AI we're talking about, will do all that the officers will do in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So that's efficiency. So if we say all
All right, you're watching The Marketplace. We are taking a short break. When we come back, we gauge your thoughts on the public transport chaos. Is it a problem of mismanagement or systemic problems? We will discuss when we come back. Welcome back to The Marketplace. If you use public transport, chances are your mornings are getting tougher. The evenings too, maybe. Long queues, parked buses, and endless waiting have become the new normal after the holidays, and many commuters are asking hard questions about what's really behind the chaos. Is it the way the system is run or the way it's being managed? And more importantly, who should fix it? Well, that is the question for our poll this afternoon. I'm joined by my colleague Isaac Atasenyako to discuss this. It's been a while. Great to have you in the studio. So how serious is this challenge, really?
Well, if you've seen videos or pictures and also rising concerns, especially on social media, now commuters say, or they are complaining about long queues at various lorry stations or bus stations for that matter, even at our bus stops. Now, you realize that approaching the Yuletide or during Christmas, these queues, normally increase, which is, pretty normal. We normally experience that, close to the end of the year.
But it's been several days after that, right?
That's where the problem lies. So usually after the Christmas festivities or the holidays, we expect that things will resume or, get back to where it used to be. But it appears that the queues, seem to be increasing. There's been shortage of cars or buses at the station, which is a concern. So we hit social media to ask. Public transport queues have worsened after the holidays. Some blame driver unions for creating artificial shortages, while others say government has failed to implement proper transport policies like rapid bus systems. Who is to be blamed? So we asked this question. Now, if you go on social media or the post we run on social media to the next slide, you realize that we had, quite some, mixed reactions.
Okay, can we see that?
Yeah, to the next slide, yeah. You realize that we had some, mixed reactions. While on Facebook, a number of people believe that it's the fault of the unions. They think that indeed the unions are creating artificial shortages. Well, we had, concerns from some of the union leaders saying that the Minister of Transport should step down because he's failed to, resolve the issue. On X, it's pretty different. Now, they are blaming, or people on X, or a majority of people on X, according to our poll, are blaming government failure, and also because everybody is involved.
When you say everyone is guilty, what are you saying? So everyone meaning the unions and the government? Because exactly. I'm not going to take blame for a poor transport system. No, it's not going to be my fault that is the problem.
It certainly can't be the problem of the commuter. I mean, it's not our fault. It's got to either
both of them?
Exactly. It's got to either be government, pair planning, You realize that early last year, sometime 2025, we had the store leadership where, what's his name? This renowned lawyer did mention, address, our issues regarding our transport system, where some of them try to gag the system and, monopolize the system as well. So some believe this is the cause. But the comment section is pretty interesting. Now, Aaron Krensil says that it's deliberate. We are our own enemies.
I've heard people say that too, that it's a strategy by the drivers to make some more money during this period. Could be.
To hike prices as well. Bring in the metro buses.
What happened to metro buses?
That's a question, a very good question.
It was working for a while, and then what happened? Because I remember those days, school children even got free rides to school.
And the elderly as well. So, yeah, I mean, people are saying we should bring back the metro mass buses so that they can, augment, the shortage. Now, Tay here says that prices of fuel are low, yet because of greed, according to him, some drivers have parked their car somewhere only to appear in the evening and increase prices.
Well, today I heard somewhere one of the reps from one of those unions say, spare parts prices are not going down. Perhaps the way they are protesting, I don't know, but somebody's got to fix it.
Well, suggesting an increment in, transport fares in future. Anyway, Lavland Mensa says that Ministry of Transport, what are you doing about this? He's also blaming the Ministry of Transport.
Does it lie at their feet?
Well, a part of it does, because they are in charge of planning, planning our transportation systems. You mentioned railway. We've mentioned, even the bus, what's it called, rapid bus system. I mean, all of these are, things we can put in place to augment, the shortage of.
Why we don't have a real network, that's a question for another day. Well, this one from Blazer Quinn, we should just ignore these commercial drivers and ask China to come and take over transport system because we are not as serious as a country. Why should the private person be in charge of almost all our commercial transport system? Transport ministers don't have innovative mindset. Like by now, we should not be struggling with buses and drivers charging us any amount they like. Well, I sort of agree with some of the points there, but certainly not asking China to come and take over. And why are we relying on private people to run our transport system?
Exactly. The role of government is very, very crucial here, Darryl.
All right. And final one, we'll urge the government to seriously take up the transport sector as it has been relaxed, creating a heyday for the so-called private operators to be extorting exorbitant and unapproved fares from average Ghanaians. John Mahama, please, I'm pleading with you to deploy more of the buses, especially the Ayalolo buses. Well, definitely cause for some thinking about our transport system and maybe not sort of privatize it so much. Maybe there should be
a perfect mix.
Mix. Yeah,
perfect balance,
I agree.
Perfect mix. But you realize that in every developing or developed country, for that matter, government plays a role in their transport system. I mean, to ensure that prices are not way too high, to ensure that there are enough buses, there are enough routes, or should I say, systems that can carry you from one place to the other. Again, there was even a discussion on the morning show today. I mean, talk of the fact that we should be thinking about how to reduce our travel time from home to work. Some spend about 2 to 3 hours on their way to work, which is crazy. Not right, affecting productivity and all. So, Darryl, these are the concerns on social media. These are what people are saying.
Exciting conversation. Great to have you back. Joy Business for
always.
New Year. Great stuff. That's it, everyone. More news on our website, myjoyonline.com/business. We leave you with international headlines.